is that India has achieved already some degree of improved economic stability. And if I show some of your data, maybe you could explain it to us in a little more depth. If we just look at how India has improved its economic stability, it's quite interesting. This is all Arvind's data. You see, look at government debt. Under NDA 1, it was up to 75% odd. Under UPA 1, it came down a bit to about 60%. Then under UPA 2, 55%. Under the current BJP government, it's about a little bit. So you can see government debt is coming down. And okay, we're a little bit above the average for developing countries, which is 52%, but not that much above. Other ways we've actually had economic stability improving.
We should just clarify to viewers that now we're going to talk about all these numbers until just before the pandemic hit, because that debt number is going to look very different after the pandemic. So now we're just taking stock of the economy until the pandemic hit, because that's going to give us clues about the second challenge. How do you restore dynamism back again?
Exactly. All your data that you've done is just prior to the pandemic. It doesn't have the devastating impact of the pandemic in it. That's an important clarification. If we move on to other data that you provided about how India's economic stability is improving, inflation is coming down. You can see under UPA 1, it went up. UPA 2, it was at its highest, over 10%. And now under the BJP, it's come right down to around about 5%. Again, this is BJP up to the pandemic, not including the impact of the pandemic. Now, the final thing in this kind of category of economic stability being improved that you have provided, Arvind, which I found really interesting. We move on to the next one. It says that current account balance, that's imports minus exports, that's that trade plus remittances, that current account balance is better. It's improved. You can see that as a percentage of GDP, it's now just 1%. And that's pretty good. A little bit higher than the average for developing countries, but still not bad at all. So these three improvements one could build on. And why have they happened?
So one way of thinking about this, Pranoy, is that, in India in the past has been prone to economic instability and financial crises from, what Harish Damodaran calls the 4 Fs: food, fuel, foreign exchange, and fiscal, right? These are the things that create, food prices go up, oil prices go up, we don't have enough foreign exchange. All those create, I think, instability and crises in India. And what you've shown just now is that apart from the fiscal situation we'll talk about later, especially after the pandemic, these 3 Fs have been relatively under control. And that goes to the credit of the government that, it believes in macroeconomic stability, it believes in low inflation, generally believes in prudence in terms of running the budget. And our foreign exchange reserves are now 600 billion or so. So we're in a very comfortable. So we are less prone to that kind of instability in the past. And as you said, that offers an opportunity to build upon.
Okay. That is amazing. Now, you also mentioned really another interesting factor that's happening in India increasingly, and that is the kind what you call new welfareism, and it's kind of hardware welfareism, where several kinds of items are provided directly to the poorest. Let's have a look at some of them that you have listed, and it's really excellent data that you've unearthed. The improved access people have had to essential services. Women using bank accounts. In the 10 years, it went from 20 to 35%, but from 2015 to 2019, it's gone up to 60%. That's a sharp increase in women using bank accounts. The other form of new welfareism, we look at that, LPG gas cylinders. We've heard a lot about that. It's one of the most effective election factors that we found among the electorate. The women really appreciated this. In 10 years, it went from 25 to 40%, but in the last 4 years, it's gone up to 60. Electricity, about the same trend, 60 to 75, 75 to 95, but it was already at a very high level, but it's up to 95%. And finally, if you look at toilets, which you listed, yes, they've also gone up, 45 to 60, that's up 15% in 10 years, and up another 15% in just the last 4 or 5 years. So what do you make of this new welfareism?
Yeah, so I think, Pranoy, in my view, I think this is probably one of the most significant achievements of the government. Why it's very interesting is because it is a very distinctive approach to the question of redistribution and, inclusive growth. How do governments generally do that? Either they provide, health and education like public goods, or the UPA builds social safety nets like, Manrega, PDS, rights to education, right to food, etc., etc. So that was the UPA approach to this. The BJP and Mr. Modi's government have a very different approach to this, which is essentially to say we are going to provide tangible goods and services, like all the things that you mentioned, to improve the lives of the poor. Now, of course, it's somewhat overhyped. India is not 100% open defecation free, for example, but nevertheless, I think significant improvements have been made. I think what is really distinctive about this is that it combines what I call vision with a calculation. There's genuine conviction that this is good for the poor, but there's also a political calculation here which says that if people can see these tangible improvements in their lives, in a way that you don't see with growth, you tell the average voter growth has gone up, what does it mean to him? But if you say, look, you got chula, you got toilet, you got this, and you say this was all because of a certain benefactor sitting in Delhi, what is called the attribution to who's providing it. My colleague, Professor Nilanjan Sarkar and Yamini Iyer have harped on this attribution. So you materially improve the lives of the poor, you say it's due to government, and that's what enhances also your political success, electoral success. So it kind of combines.